More on this, we're joined by Anthony Williams, Executive Chairman of Indigenous First Nation Advocacy South Africa. Anthony, thanks for your time tonight. Firstly, let's just perhaps separate the two issues. Let's begin with the protests that we have seen in Westbury and the concerns that residents have raised. What do you make of the response that there has been, even including perhaps today, to those concerns?
Well, thank you very much for offering us the opportunity to come and, say a few words. I think it's important that people contextualize what we see. This has been an issue. You saw exactly a similar kind of response from government in El Rado Park, and we know it went on for a couple of months, and then they just pulled out. So we really are hoping that this time around that there will be a sustained program of rooting out, the ills that is within this community. It's massive, drug and drug-related issues are just but this very small, tiny drop in the ocean of this massive this disconnect that this community has, with the state, with government, in particular also the disconnect that this community has with the ruling party. There are very clear signs that somewhere government or the state decided that they are not going to service this community, and hence you begin to hear all this, the screams and the shouting of marginalization, oppression, being pushed aside, and issues around we're not black and we're not now black enough and not white enough in the past. Those kind of very, very silly, comments. But these are real issues that people are facing on the ground, and the response is somewhat lacking.
How different are the concerns that are being raised? Because ultimately it all comes down to issues of service delivery, right? So in this particular aspect it will be around the policing department, but in other communities it may be over the water department or the sanitation department. So in the context of service delivery, how different do you see what Westbury residents as being to any other concerns that would be raised by any other communities who some have been protesting? In South Africa we have about almost 200 protests per month, the figures show. So why is this protest different to others?
It's not. It's not. We mustn't be careless and say that it is that it's different. I think what is different, which is absolutely important, is that there has been a false, a sustained program of keeping these people in this community of Westbury, of Mitchell's Plain, of Rivoli, of North of Westbury, of Nuclear, keeping them under a false identity, right? That is partly of what we are faced here. These people are called coloureds. Right there, there's a mistake because they are falsely identified by a colonial imposed identity, right? Now, and they left all on their own. So there's nobody that's fighting for them. There's nobody that's talking for them, because everybody knows, including this government, knows exactly who these people are. They know that these people are the seed. These are the children of Khoi and the Sen. That's where these people are coming from, and there is just an audible silence, from the struggle paragons. Nobody is saying anything about it, so they're just sweeping this thing under the carpet all the time. That's what we are facing.
So, with the issue of the concerns around being marginalized that are being raised by some of the community members in Westbury, I imagine that it's not a complaint that's unique to Westbury residents alone.
Yes.
And so in this instance, is there perhaps a conflation of the issues where, the service delivery protests are almost being brought down to, well, it's because we're colored, when in fact there's a broader conversation around the marginalization holistically of colored people in the country that needs to be spoken about?
You see, you can't divorce the issues the real issues on the ground of social, the social degradation, the social disconnect. You can't divorce that from the identity of these people, because that particular that issue of identity has got to be addressed, because the reason why we leave these people outside and we are not providing for them, this at least is our understanding from the side of the state. The reason why we are not going to provide for them is because these people are potentially the people that wants to dislodge everybody in this country, because everybody knows who these people are and where they are coming from. And as you correctly analyze that the issues in Westbury, the issues in Mitchell's Plain and the other areas are not entirely unique, you know, but what is really unique in this instance is as this group of people continues to suffer at the hands, you know, of a brutal system, which is a colonial apartheid system that we are perpetuating, that democracy has now ring-fenced, has hedged this, because we introduced something that was abolished in 1991. The Nationalist Party has already abolished the title colored. In 1994, the democratic dispensation has saw it fit to reintroduce racial categorization. And we are saying that for as long as we racially categorize people, that's how long we are going to have racialism and racial tension. So these are the real issues that we have to deal with. Nobody is dealing with it, and we are sweeping it under the carpet, pushing it pushing it aside, and think that things are happening in a vacuum. It's not happening in a vacuum.
So then, in a differently perhaps framed racial category framework, if I can put it that way, without the black, the colored, how would these protests and the concerns that residents are raising, how would it be different? Just so that you really drive the point home around the false identity that you're speaking about. Where would the difference then come in?
You see, what we need is, we need an honest discussion as a country. We've never had that. People want to behave as if South Africa is all well, and the only real issues that we are having here is drug-related issues, is issues of unemployment. You know, that is an absolutely misdiagnosis of the real issues on the ground. Because not only is this an issue for the children of the Khoi and the San, but this is also the issue of the Bantu Nguni people, because they are being misidentified, and they are sitting under this falseness. Now what we do in the process, now we identify people as black and white and colored. You know, you can't people who's got sense can clearly see that there's something wrong. How can you identify people on the basis of color and then everybody is comfortable with that? So the conversation is much bigger than just Westbury. But Westbury is a carbon copy of what is happening in every community around the country, but also what is happening in other communities outside of the so-called colored communities. And it's just not been spoken about. But now what we are saying is, we cannot sit around here, clap hands even for what the minister said. The minister had an opportunity here today to come out clearly and suspend the brigadier, because I personally handed over on the 16th of April 2017, on a Sunday morning, we handed over a memorandum to the brigadier of Sophia Town Police Station, and nothing has been done ever since. Why did they not suspend the brigadier, and why did they not suspend the entire management of that police station? Because they are all complicit, they are all in cahoots, they're getting money from the drug lords in Westbury every single day.
All right. Let's leave it there for tonight. Thank you so much, Anthony, for coming to share your views and certainly the experience of the community.
Could we ask just one more thing? Could we just ask the minister to release those people, the 4 people who are in custody, and stop the brutality that these people have been dealt with? These people need to be released today. If these people are not released, there's a very clear message out there from the community. There's going to be havoc tonight.
All right.